I know what that feels to be hiding something that I'm not supposed to be feeling. And that could be a number of things with where we are in our world right now. So I think it'll touch upon a lot of nerves and hopefully it be enjoyable for people to watch.
I'm excited to talk with you as I've been a big admirer of your work for a long time. And I think Dark Obsession is a really cool and intriguing installment into your filmography. I love that you're both a producer on this as well as a star. What about this project really spoke to you to wear both hats for it?
Supporting indie filmmaking, the story, the lead being female and doing most of the heavy lifting by herself on screen alone, starring, producing, writing, that's awesome. So I support that 100%. The context of the story, the shame, the trauma, all of that, the isolation, all of the things I think that we were feeling during COVID, actually. So yeah, I was just excited to have a tiny little part that spoke so much. I felt like during that, the beginning, like 2020, I was taking on all these, not all, there wasn't that many opportunities, but I was taking on movies that had tiny roles, but were very important to the story. And this was one of those that you don't really realize how important she is, or the connection between the backstories of the characters, because there's very little words for most of the movie. But the feeling was there. So I thought it was interesting to tackle and see what that felt like.
It really does play well into the movie's sort of bizarre atmosphere, your role in the movie.
But that's for sure.
But so did they approach you to be a part of this project, or did you find the script?
They approached me, sent the script to me, and I said I would love to come on board and do this little part and help you guys in any way that I can make this happen. So signed on as producer.
That's amazing. So what all did you help with then in the producer side of things versus the acting side of things?
More the acting side of the thing, and cast and, press stuff and promotion and anything. And then actually came in and worked on another film of theirs called Project Dorothy right after that just came out, or is actually, I think it's just coming out right now. So it's nice when you find your people that you want to work with, and then you kind of create your little group. I mean, I've been doing this for 40 years and I'm still putting my list together of like who my core would be. So I really like George as a filmmaker and thought that, we have a nice little, relationship, and I would want to help him succeed.
So with that said, then, even though you do have a small part in this, how much did you and George discuss what your character's actual story is and how it ties to the lead of this film?
We didn't discuss anything before I got on set. And then we just played, and we actually did something really interesting, which I'd never done before. And sometimes it could be quirky when, new filmmakers that are out of film school are trying things they learned in school. And because I've been doing this for so long, you're like, okay, what is it? Give me your thing that you want to try. And he had us do the scene entirely without saying any words. So just set action, and we knew the dialogue in our head, and which was not a lot of dialogue. And just, I opened the door and she walked up, and I just looked at her, and she looked at me, and I looked at her, and she looked at me, and I looked at her, and we had this whole unspoken thing. And that was what he was trying to get once. So we did that, and then we went and added the dialogue in after. So it was a cool little technique that I was like, okay, I see where how much you need to see and not rely upon the words. So it's kind of cool. Again, it's like, indie filmmakers, directors, they all have kind of their thing. But what I love about that is when I do a lot of horror movies, a lot of the horror movie directors are fanboys who grew up watching me from when I was a kid, and they don't want to give me direction. They don't want to give me notes. They don't want to tell me what to do because they're scared. So when you have films like this, it's a little bit easier, I guess, or cooler to like dig in and kind of play with character versus, okay, cool, I've got the great opening scene where I've got the big death and I know what I'm doing. You guys don't need to tell me how to be dragged across the floor, screaming and crying. So it's fun to try different things.
With that said, then I am actually curious, what was it like performing that scene dialogueless? I mean, what were some of the challenges and the emotions going through your head as you were performing that sequence?
It felt really uncomfortable. And I think that was what he was looking for. That might have been what was missing when we were doing it, was that feeling of being uncomfortable, because there's obviously no husband yelling at me over there. And I don't know, we don't have a relationship, her and I didn't know her, and it was COVID and we're in separate rooms. So it's like two women coming together, and what can you say to one another about what you're feeling without saying anything. And weird stuff would come up. I mean, there were times where I felt like I, wanted to cry for no reason. So, and I think that's kind of the basis of the story, right? Like what's behind the eyes when you're not saying what you need to say. And that was like the overall tone of the story. And then we got to do that in our one little scene. So it was weird. And I had never done it before, but I think it really worked. So kudos to them.
I love that. And I mean, the scene still feels largely dialogueless and yet works. So I do love that you both play it up so well.
Well, you see it and you're like, what am I supposed to do? What do you want me to do with it? Why are you hiring me to do this? Why do you want me to do this? Like, what is it? Because you could just get, I mean, a woman answers the door and says, honey, I don't know what you're talking. I haven't seen him. And then that's really what it is. So you could have had another actor that just came in and said the words and maybe wouldn't have had that same thing. So I think he wanted Mina for her and wanted me for this character because he wanted to add that element. So that's, thank you.
Again, it was perfect the way it plays out. And so I love the look of your character too, in that
you like when I look like shit.
I wasn't going to say that, but at the same time, there kind of like what we've been discussing, it almost leans into the parallels between the two characters. And so I'm curious how much input you had on that versus how much was maybe the wardrobe and George.
I mean, it was really George's vision and wardrobe. And I knew, obviously, I had been locked in my house for a while and didn't have access to outside. And so the clothes were a little bit dated. And I mean, I think all of that stuff in the film seems very specific. So I'm not sure who, in pre-production makes all those decisions, whether it was the production designer or it was Blaine or it was George, but I think it was a combination of all of the above. So I just showed up and said, tell me what you want me to do. And I know I'm tired and don't put any makeup on me and let's just roll with it. So I'm definitely not an actor that needs to be like, I'm the actor that every time makeup comes up and says, let me, do you want to touch up? I'm like, just no, go away. I'm like, I'm in my space. I don't need powdered nose right now. So I'm definitely not the other actor that's, usually it's the male actors that are more concerned with their appearance on screen than the females, believe it or not.
I can believe it, to be honest.
Yep. It's always the guy that wants to do another take or wants to be on this side of the camera or whatever. It's very rarely the woman that is concerned about the way she looks.
That just shows how much of a team player you are then, in that you just, you want to get done the best job as quick as possible.
For sure.
So with this movie then, what are you hoping that audiences can take away from its story, from its messages, from its performances, all of that?
I think that movies don't need to be big blockbuster, budget movies to resonate with people. I mean, we know that in the horror community, though, that it doesn't need to be that. And it's all about story, relationship, character, simplicity. But there's a lot of beautiful elements to it, too. The score, the sound, the music, the visuals, all of that stuff. Really, it's like that's what filmmaking is. It's a compilation of all of the things. And I'm hoping that people watch it and they feel something, whether it's I've been there or, I mean, obviously no one's killing anybody, hopefully, but I've been there and I know what that feels to be hiding something that I'm not supposed to be feeling. And that could be a number of things with where we are in our world right now. So I think it'll touch upon a lot of nerves and hopefully it be enjoyable for people to watch.
I really hope people give the chance to watch it because there is so much that it has to offer. So I look forward to spreading the word about it. Before I let you go, I did want to ask a few questions outside of the movie.
Of course.
You recently talked about your interest in returning as Jamie in the Halloween franchise, but I'm curious, David Gordon Green did such a great job of honoring what came before, especially with some of the cameos. Did he ever approach you to be in any of his movies?
No, I actually had, I myself had talked to the guys at Blumhouse and said, hey, just want you to know I would totally love to do like a little teeny cameo because I would love to work with him and be part of this. And, but again, like I'd already done Annie and come back for Rob Zombies. And I mean, how many times could I come back as another character realistically without it being stupid? So I got it. But I had talked to them about other ideas that I'd had for the franchise and, living in it for as long as I've lived in it, what I would love to see happen. And obviously I've said from the beginning, I would love to see where Jamie is now. As an adult, I wouldn't come back to the movie as anything other than that. And I'm hoping that now they've got rights to TV series and all these things, the universe, the whole Halloween world. I'm really hoping that they find a timeline where we can go back and explore where I am right now, because I would sure love to know.
I would too. I would love to see Jamie get the Halloween 2018 treatment.
Wouldn't that be awesome?
It would be the best. She's a character that deserves that treatment. So I'm going to keep my fingers crossed. So what were your thoughts then on the overall trilogy, though? Because obviously critics got more and more mixed as the movies went on. But how did you feel about
I mean, I liked a lot of it. I liked the last one. I didn't like it as a Halloween movie. I think if it hadn't been called Halloween Ends, it would have been, received great reviews. The fans are really particular about Michael Myers, and I get it. I totally get it. Without Jamie Lee Curtis in it, I don't know how well it necessarily would have done. Obviously, you have her in it, and everyone's going to go see it, hoping if I'm in it another time, they'll all go see it because of me. But I feel like they do these movies in threes, right? I feel like they do like everything. They're all in threes. So while I was happy to see him come back, because I feel like Rob Zombie really struggled after Halloween 2. I feel like that the franchise was hurting. I'm glad that they were able to bring it back the way they did and reignite this love for it. I mean, look, we have conventions solely for Halloween for that franchise. Like that doesn't happen with anything else. I always say like there's no terms of endearment convention, So so I'm excited that world still exists, and that there's different timelines and rules and avenues to explore what that world looks like. So I liked it. I'm excited to see where it goes from here. But I think they did a great job with what they had, for sure. It's hard. Studios are hard. There's a lot of players. There's a lot of rules. There's a lot of things. I learned that from the difference between Halloween 4 and 5 versus working on Rob Zombie's. Halloween 4 and 5 was 100% creative and producers, director, like all team players, where you have now studio involved and you've got other forces at play that make decisions and things based on things outside of the art and the story. And I'm hoping that maybe we get to go back to the way that it used to be, because it'd be lovely to get back into Halloween as Jamie and have it not be a studio feel and have it be kind of how it was in the 80s. Wouldn't that be great?
Yeah, that creative freedom would be perfect for continuing Halloween in the future.
Well, because that's what the fans want. The studios are churning out movies that the fans are not wanting to see, where if it just kept it simple and because let us do what we know, because I think they're marketing to the wrong people. It's like when they brought Laurie's daughter, I'm totally blanking on her name right now. Karen. The actress, she's fantastic. As an actress, I'm a huge fan of hers, but she's not Laurie's daughter, but I get like marketing wise, and as far as like she's a big movie star and incredibly talented and it's got this, all of this draw. But if you just keep it simple and keep it the way keep what fans want to see, I think they'll be even more successful than they already could be.
I couldn't agree more. So hopefully they listen to what fans want going into the next project.
I'll just put it out there.
Yeah, we'll put it out there in the airwaves. For my final question, one of my favorite movies of yours is actually The Last Boy Scout. I adore Shane Black. I adore Bruce Willis. And Bruce recently had to step away, retire due to his health. And I'm curious, what that's like for you, looking back on your experience with him on that movie and knowing where he's gone now.
It's devastating. It's sad. I mean, I feel the same way about Christina Applegate, to see these stars that you think in your mind are going to be there forever. And then you start to see them age or pass. I mean, I'm 46, so I'm starting to see my movie stars that I looked up to dying. And you don't think that's ever going to happen. You think they're going to stay that way forever. So it's really scary and sad. And I worked on, I'm writing a book now, actually. And my writer came in town this weekend and we did, we just went over all the chapters and all the stuff. And Last Boy Scout's obviously a very, very, very big chapter in my book, and the stories about Bruce. And, I have this, he said to me the first day that I came on set, he said to me, I did the first scene. And then he said, kid, this is my movie. Don't upstage me. And at the time I was like, he's not nice. Like, he's not being nice. And then thinking about it, like, that's just Bruce. He's just funny like that. And he was actually paying me a huge compliment by saying that. But as, 14-year-old, you're like, oh, I don't know what I did wrong. So, and then obviously Tony Scott, I talked a lot about him on my podcast, actually, that's out today. I talked about Tony and what he'd wear to set. And he took me to get those fake braces where I had to get a tooth pulled and like crazy. Like Tony Scott took me to the dentist to get my tooth pulled. Like that's who does that kind of stuff. So that movie is super special. Obviously that script, one of the scripts I wish that I would have kept, because I don't know where it is, but I know the original script was nothing, was way more even intense than the stuff that was actually shown. And I have a little story and then I'll let you go. But when I did Once Upon a Time in Hollywood with Quentin, I had, there's this scene, I was very, very pregnant. And he wrote the character for me and was figuring out what I could say or what I would do while I was there. So he said, I'm going to name you Angel. And he gave me the scene with Brad. And then he said, so I get to set and he says, there's the scene where all of you, the Manson family is telling Brad's character to get out of here and leave and get off our lot. And he said, I want you to say, take a bath in my ass. Because, and what people don't realize and don't know, but of course Quentin Tarantino knew, was that was a line that I said in the original script of Last Boy Scout to, the red, when I say, whatever, you effing redneck. So I also had told that character that kidnapped me to take my ass, but it never made it on screen. And Quentin always loved that line and was like, you didn't get to say it in Last Boy Scout. You're going to say it in my movie. And unfortunately I was like, oh my God, I get to tell Brad Pitt to take a bath in my ass. Like, this is the best day ever. I will never forget this. And then I ended up having my baby the day that I was supposed to shoot the scene. So I didn't get to do the scene. So I'm hoping that maybe Quentin will bring that back at some point for another movie. But I love that he knew that was in Shane's script and that Shane wrote that kind of stuff. And that movie is just a classic and it still holds up. And it's one of my favorite characters, if not favorite, next to Jamie Lloyd for sure.
I rewatch it all the time. It holds up endlessly, and I'm just a huge Shane Black fan in general, so I think that's an underappreciated movie of his.
Oh yeah.
So hopefully, if not Quentin, then Shane can find a way to bring you back.
Please, Shane, I'm ready. Let's do it.
I love it. Well, thank you so much, Danielle, for taking the time. Sure. I greatly appreciate it. I cannot wait to spread the word about Dark Obsession, and keep my fingers crossed that you get to come back at Jamie at some point.
Yes, fingers crossed.